for you and tell me what is a hot button issue for you lately. Like what's got you very intrigued? Why don't you start off there?
Oh God, where do I start? I have so many things, but also beautiful intro. I haven't seen that one yet. Absolutely gorgeous. So excited about that. Like I felt very emotional watching that.
Oh, wow.
And also, hey Laura, super excited. Congratulations on the goats.
Thank you.
I'm so happy. I have to tell you my goat story one day, but oh my God, I can't wait to see you. But okay, so some things that are on the cusp of my mind again is probably this Russia-Ukraine situation, just the aggravation of the media. Do I think that there's a problem? 100%. There's definitely problems. Is everything Russia? No. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who are Russian, even in the States, that are going through lots of issues and being targeted for things that have absolutely nothing to do with anything that they had any power to make decisions about, any more than we have any power to take down our situation with our president and all of that mess. So I talked to a couple of people last week who happen to be of Russian descent that live in America, and they moved out into the country to get away from all the drama of what's going on because they've been so harassed and have so much stuff going on. And what's ironic is, number one, they've been here forever. So, they've been here a couple decades. Number two, both of their parents have one dad that's Ukrainian and one that's Russian. So they're coming from both sides, literally. They're split. And also they happen to have a Ukrainian foreign exchange student living with them right now. So obviously they don't have a problem with the Ukraine. And that's what I'm seeing across the board with a lot of the people that I'm talking to that happen to be Russian, is like, they don't want to do this any more than we wanted Afghanistan or Vietnam, or, it's like, what do you do? But it's worse because people are like dumping out vodka and canceling everybody and, being really mean. And it's just sad that all of this has to happen or it actually doesn't have to happen, but all the brainwashing and all of the weird putting us against each other kind of energy division stuff is an opportunity. And I don't enjoy that opportunity. And I wish people would wake up and see like that there's not a lot that anyone can do. Now, even the kid who is the exchange student, her parents, her mom and dad got out. Her mom got out and her siblings got out, and they're in Poland right now. But the dad is hiding in some shack wherever. So is shit really happening? Yes. Is it happening like they're trying to say it is? No. Is it very, I've seen a lot of footage over there where people are like, there's nothing going on. It's just another day in a lot of places. So, but that they can't put anything on the media unless it's like tragic and fearful and terrible, and they're even staging a lot of this stuff. I've actually watched a lot of staging situations where someone looks like they're homeless because they left and they're sitting on the side of the road, but really they were like told go sit there, or they're setting up things at the railroad station to help supposedly people coming over or whatever. So I don't know, I just yeah, like Vicky is saying, why are people still watching TV if they can't even differentiate like the facade versus what they're, what's really happening? So that's that in a nutshell. And then agreements is another topic, but we can get on that later. But go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Vicky. Thank you for joining. And we have Live Well, Whole and Free. I love that. Hey, I love seeing you here. Thanks for joining. And anybody else who joins. Now, let's pose the same question to you, Laura. What is a item, a thing right now that has you really motivated and in any way inspired, or however you would say, concerned?
Right, right. Well, definitely what Dr. Sharnael brought up, and I'm not going to go into that topic because she just really voiced it thorough enough, and there's not a whole lot to add. I would say, and this is always a consistent thing for me, is just future generations, the indoctrination of our children, and just the confusion that they're going through. I just feel this is so harmful to their psyche in the long term, but I also have a lot of faith that very powerful star seeds or really advanced souls were born into the world and into these situations that will stand up and say, I don't think so. Because I know that a lot of us did when we were growing up, and it wasn't to the extreme that we're seeing now. So when it's to the extreme and you're a conscious or awakened advanced individual, I'm not trying to use those words on myself like I'm so advanced, but when you're really able to see through the programs and through the lies, and it gets to this kind of extreme, I think the uprising in the children as they develop and grow up are going to be able to really stand up and say, this absolutely does not like align with my intuition, why I'm here on this planet at this time. It doesn't align, you know, with my truth. And even if there are concerns about, you know, the weapons being used in all forms, all these different kind of assaults, I feel that the override frequency of somebody that is beyond the 3D thinking and beyond the mind control or social engineering or getting caught up in the personality matrix is a higher frequency than these dark technologies. And it'll begin to neutralize and collapse these dark technologies and even override things like 5G. But I know that there's going to be a lot of challenge for those that might not know how to process this at this stage in the game, and for parents that don't know how to process this because they haven't gone through enough of the rabbit holes, or they haven't been able to, you know, really research. But I feel just incredibly inspired to assist just people in their everyday lives of how to, you know, kind of deal with this, how we can build community away from the system, away from the matrix, and get people to, you know, kind of work together and utilize resources, utilize skill sets, and really like create a foundation so that we can bring our children over into that. And if you're not able to homeschool, that there's enough people in the community that can hold that kind of space. And also that some of the areas that we might hold as landowners and keepers in order to build this community, that we get a major sort of guardian force of maybe ex-military or people that are, you know, strong veteran, patriot-minded individuals to guard from any attack, anybody coming and knocking on the door, wanting to snatch any of this stuff. Because that's where I feel the war is going to be played out kind of on more of a face-to-face level when they actually are coming to your door. So it's all about that preparation, I feel. And that's what's really motivating to me. And I feel the ripple effect is going to impact a lot of people. And it's going to also be an example for others around the world to maybe do the same kind of thing. And I know people are already doing it as we speak. Instead of it being about politics, instead of it being about the division, instead of it being about seclusion, that it really is about rehabilitation to help people that are struggling with falling into a lot of this indoctrination, buying into what the outer authority is saying, and the whole problem, reaction, solution thing, so that it can really assist them and feeling a safety and a compassion and a love to help them to move through this very, very difficult passage and transition without any judgment, without any of, you know, the very tactics that they're using to divide us, that we have to be very wary and careful of on our end, no matter how much we know, no matter how much we think we know too. Because I feel that some of these detrimental decisions will be neutralized and nullified when the love frequency grows, and we can just really come together in the face of everything they're trying to do to unhinge us, separate us, and keep us in this battle and in this war, which to me is the root of why they do these psyops and why they infect social media with all this kind of stuff and the stuff that you mentioned, Sharnael. So I'll kind of leave it at that.
Thank you. It's so nice to see you both. And we are, anybody who's wondering, we are expecting Kerry. So whenever she comes into the green room, as they call it, I'll pop her right on the screen, okay? So we're waiting for her. I'll check and see if she sent a message. So I
And
just
then you're gonna
like,
answer that question, right? Jennifer,
pardon me?
you're
Oh.
gonna answer that question too, right?
Oh, yeah, thank you. You know, I almost forget when, you know.
I know when I do the interviews too, I'm like, or a round table, I'm like,
It's like, oh yeah, let it be a round table. Okay. Oh, okay. So what's on my mind right now that I want to get feedback from you all. I've prepared, you know how I am, a few little images like slides that deal with some of the current events, and it touches on some of the things that you've said. And I just like to hear you speak on it. And that's what's interesting to me, is I'm realizing that on a basic level, the woman is under, like the gender of being a woman is under such scrutiny at this time, where it's being debated or it's being redefined. And I'm concerned about it from a, you know, from a woman's standpoint. And I want to see what you all would say to some of the things that I'm going to bring up. Because I realized, I said, it's so many different plates that are spinning in the air at one given time. I don't think we've ever had so many issues coming at us at one time like this. So the issue of gender being just so basic, I said, if that building block of society is absolutely redefined, where will that lead us, basically? So, you know how I talk about going back in history? That's been a thing that I've been doing a lot. I never liked history so much as I do right now. It's even with going back and looking at old maps, and just, I want to get, like, I have this desire to get old dictionaries. I have encyclopedias that were dusty that I dusted off. And it's like this desire to see what was said in certain narratives, what changed and why. So that's why I have a picture of an old map, as you can see. And, you know, this is something that is being treated the same way being a patriot has been treated, you know, where you have these factions that come in and they go, and I believe they're infiltrators that come in and make everything look like just confusion and chaos. And then anybody who was sincerely in this particular movement or whatever then gets painted with a broad stroke as crazy, tinfoil hat, don't listen to anything, just throw it all out whole cloth. So that's why I'm like concerned about issues of history and narratives changing, maps changing, country names changing. It just keeps you off balance, you know? So what I want to ask you now, I'm going to go through, you know, I just have this old map and it's focused on that area of the world, of, if you want to call it a globe. I'm not going into a debate on flat earth or anything like that. And I want you all to say words. I hope you don't edit yourself. I know we've become very accustomed to saying jab and whatever else. I just want us to say the words, like, because I don't have this on YouTube, because I know that when we get together, YouTube is one of those highly censored areas. So we could put it on whatever platforms, you know, we feel we want to, but I just want us to be free to talk right now. Okay, so no censoring. Okay, so there is an issue, I brought it up, I think the last time we were live together, where the area of Tartary or Tartaria, this is something that, this word is somehow now like tinfoil hat-ish. You know, people are like, don't talk about that, don't look into it. And it's weird, you know, it's weird because it's like, well, it's on the map. And I was always somebody that loved the globe. I had so many globes and I would look in my encyclopedias and I was always interested in all of that topography. And, you know, just to think that in school, we never learned, I never learned the word Tartaria. I didn't know anything about it. So I just wanted to say that, you know, history has just been exciting to me lately. And these kind of going back, you know, you could say like kind of time traveling. But I know this is a little odd. Oh, wait a minute. I see a message from Kerry. 1 minute. Let me just check and see if she has everything. She's having trouble getting on StreamYard.
Yeah, looks like StreamYard is having some problems with, she's having,
Sorry, everybody. We're just going to take care of this one little technology glitch before I go on. What do you think I should do? Resend, or do you think?
I can drop it in the box. You want me
Okay.
to send it to her?
Okay. All right. Let's see if that works. And 1 minute. Okay, if she pops on, I'm just gonna go on so we don't have too much of a lag. Now, the picture you see right now is something I want to talk about, okay? And this deals with some current events. I know that we are on a certain view here. Let me see if I could put us on a view where we're on the side. Maybe that'll work out. Okay. I know this may seem strange, but it's a method to my madness here. I'm curious to know what this means to you when you look at this logo, starting with you, Dr. Sharnael. Were you involved with this organization? What does it mean to you? Have you ever given it much thought?
Yes, so actually I was a part of Girl Scouts, and I went like kind of up to the top, not like very, very top, and did a lot of different volunteers, had all the badges, sold the cookies, went on the camping trips, did the whole thing. I actually had a really good experience with that. And also as an adult, I ended up working for United Way for Girl Scouts for a time period, as a buyer and a creator of their swag. So basically I would buy all the book bags and the cups and the pencils and the water carriers and whatever, and then I would get them designed, and then they would have this in their catalog or their shop or whatever to sell for the whole United States. I was the, I don't know what you, designer, whatever, for all of their products. And I was fired from them because, yeah, because I gave I think it was a banana and a Rice Krispie bar to a homeless person that showed up hungry.
I don't know. I can't hear anybody.
Hi, Carrie's on with us. Carrie, we hear you. Can you hear Carrie?
I hear Kerry.
Yeah,
I can't hear you guys. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know what's going on.
I hear you. Let me put in the comments. I can hear her. Hear you, Carrie. I don't know if she can see chat.
Am I muted? Does somebody have me muted?
No.
Can you see that, Carrie? I can hear. Can you all hear her, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, we hear you, Carrie. Oh, she dropped off. Maybe she's going to come right back in. Okay.
Isn't there something you said, Sharnael, that once you start the broadcast, it's a little bit different? You have to kind of be there in the moment it starts? Maybe not.
Oh, really? I didn't know that one.
Once it goes live, you have to start it. The host has to actually go live, or it cuts out and you can't get back in. But
Okay,
she's not hosting. Legena is hosting.
Right. Well, we don't want to lose where your train of thought was.
Oh yeah. So anyway, I got fired.
You got fired. Okay.
I got fired for helping to help with a homeless person that came in, which it kind of was like, and they also would take money out of your check to go towards United Way, which now I know is like a bad fit for me. In my research now, that I don't know where that money goes or what's going on. It doesn't, I don't think it's a good thing. And you know, this emblem, it kind of looks a little black and white-ish, you know, very divided. Although that wasn't my experience. There was all kinds of girls in my situation, just because I was overseas too, and we were military, so there was always a mix of everything. Like my very best friends were every color of the rainbow, and so I didn't really know any different until I moved to the South, and then it was like shock, like this happens, this is real, like people are that segregated. It's different now, but it was really crazy bad when I moved here 20 years ago. But so I don't know if that gives you any insight. My background and what it means to me is kind of a mixed bag, because it was a great thing as a kid, but when I really researched where the money's going and what the situation was with that, and then just getting fired for helping, like, isn't that the whole purpose of, you know, being a good person, you know, being honest and fair and helping people and serving? But I got fired because I think they thought, like, if I gave that to him, the guy's gonna keep coming back, and whatever.
Wow. That is, I didn't know you had that personal experience with the more corporate side of it, right? So let's hear what your experience is with it, Laura. Were you ever involved in the Girl Scouts, and what is your past and current feeling about the organization?
Well, I've always appreciated this kind of stuff. I grew up going to camp, just all sorts of overnight camps that were, you know, pretty rugged. But it was like pretty much every summer, starting from a really young age. So I was used to sort of like working in groups. And then I later pursued wilderness expedition leadership, which I did for a couple of years, which was way in the backcountry, of doing wilderness stuff. But it was sort of just like always like a huge break for me from just school, which I never had a good time in. I could see through a lot of stuff. I wasn't really interested in a lot of the subjects. I was more into the arts and more into, you know, more of the other kind of stuff. But later I got really into the sciences, but into a more expanded kind of science. But anyway, when the Girl Scout thing kind of rolled around, that was more during the school year. Like, this is something that you can do as an extracurricular activity. But I remember starting with the brownies, and I remember, you know, wearing the uniform. I remember like being all wild with my friends, but it was sort of like the prerequisite before you're a Girl Scout. And I had so much more fun being a brownie because it wasn't as structured and disciplined. And I appreciated the Girl Scouts because you achieve things and you get your thing with your badges. But my sister, who was a year ahead of me, who got straight A's, who was just like top notch at everything. And I wasn't jealous of it or anything, but you know, she was the ultimate Girl Scout. It was like her stash was like filled with like every. Later pursued wilderness expedition leadership, which I did for a couple of years, which was way in the backcountry, of doing wilderness stuff. But it was sort of just like always like a huge break for me from just school, which I never had a good time in. I could see through a lot of stuff. I wasn't really interested in a lot of the subjects. I was more into the arts and more into, you know, more of the other kind of stuff. But later I got really into the sciences, but into a more expanded kind of science. But anyway, when the Girl Scout thing kind of rolled around, that was more during the school year. Like, this is something that you can do as an extracurricular activity. But I remember starting with the brownies, and I remember, you know, wearing the uniform. I remember like being all wild with my friends, but it was sort of like the prerequisite before you're a Girl Scout. And I had so much more fun being a brownie because it wasn't as structured and disciplined. And I appreciated the Girl Scouts because you achieve things and you get your thing with your badges. But my sister, who was a year ahead of me, who got straight A's, who was just like top notch at everything. And I wasn't jealous of it or anything, but you know, she was the ultimate Girl Scout. It was like her stash was like filled with like every thing that you can imagine. So when it was my turn, I'm like, am I really just going to follow in the footsteps and do, I mean, I'm just sort of like, well, somebody in the family is doing it. And, you know, it wasn't like I was thinking it at the time, but maybe in self-reflection, maybe that's kind of what happened. But I remember getting in a lot of trouble. I was a troublemaker. I was hanging around the more rebellious Girl Scouts. And I got kicked out.
Oh no.
Yeah, but then I moved to England and I joined Girl Guides, which was similar.
Oh,
and
yeah.
because I had sort of a weird experience with Girl Scouts, I was a little bit hesitant, but my father thought it was a good idea because I went to England by myself without my sisters. I was like moving into 7th grade. It was my 7th grade year, but in England. And at a all girls school, not like an elitist school, but a very rundown convent with a lot of really pissy nuns. So we just laughed our asses off. And it was a very rundown place with, you know, we'd be kind of like in mobile home, kind of like shack, kind of like schoolrooms, but we still had to wear the uniform. And I did the Girl Guides, and it was And it was a lot more fun because everything was fun because it was a different country. So it was more like, I'm just gonna have fun because it's just, you know, even though I was born there, I was just able to get more out of it. But I have to say, I do really appreciate what it represented, but it was just at that stage in my life where I was a little bit more loose at the seams, and there was just some sort of like obnoxious sort of girls in the American Girl Scouts that I think sort of spurred on my rebelliousness, because I don't really put up with that, or like the bullying types, without them realizing, wow, we really can't mess with her. And I just kind of like fly off the rails sometimes. So that's my experience.
I love it. Thank you. Okay, Kerry, I'm so glad you found a way back in. Are you able to hear us now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah? Okay, wait a minute.
Can you hear me?
Unmute your mic. I've unmuted it. I think you're muted.
Okay. Oh,
We
yeah.
can't hear
Okay.
you now.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. Hold on. Okay.
Oh, there
sorry.
you are. Okay. Much better. Hey there. Hi, Kerry.
Hi. Hi.
Morning. How are you doing? Tell us what's like going on with you, along with, let us know if, first of all, tell us, this is what we did in the beginning of the roundtable. What is your hot button issue right now, currently, today? And were you a Girl Scout, Kerry? And what do you think about Girl Scouting? Maybe previous, like as a Girl Scout, and now as a post Girl Scout? Let us know.
Okay. My hot issue right now is what is called, hold on. It's basically whether we have a president in exile. So I want to talk about that if people are interested. And I sent you guys a link so you could have watched it if you were interested to watch it. And anyway, I think it was a really good show. And let's see, my Girl Scouts. Yes, I think I was a brownie for a brief time and a Girl Scout for a brief time. I have no memory of it whatsoever, other than wearing an outfit, you know, because I was very clothes conscious when I was a little kid. And I think it came from a prior life. You know, my mother used to take me shopping to buy like one new dress a year. We didn't have that much money. And so I would like put her through hell on every way it fit me, whether it was made well, whether I liked the, you know, the decoration. Like I was just like a complete diva when I was like, I don't know, 6. So I don't know where that came from, but anyway, so that's all I remember was the outfit.
That's interesting.
That's
wow.
so funny.
That's great. Well, for me, my experience was brief as a brownie. However, I did become a scout leader later on in life, like when I had my corporate job. So I did that for a brief period of time. And my thought on scouting at this time, I know everything has changed. I do believe that when we were younger, we were part of a generation that had, it seems more innocence, and now it's just so complicated being a child and being a teen, even more than ever. I think this is the hardest time to ever grow up for them. And I always try to remind people of that, because it is just terrible what they have to choose. They're, you know, forced to comply with these identity politics and things of that nature. So, you know, everything's gone woke, in other words. So I don't even, like, I've been kind of out of the loop with the scouting. I didn't go through it with my daughter, but I just recently came across some things that were concerning to me that deal with some of the issues. And this may be a throwback for some of you all with some of the badges, and like you brought up the badges and the competition for the badges. And, you know, it's all about merit, right? But I don't know what it's like now, because merit has a bad name and leaves a bad taste in people's mouths, because it makes people feel bad when, you know, somebody else, you know, excels. Now, I bring that up to bring this up, okay? That the Girl Scout, okay, the whole issue of gender and being a woman in today's world with all of the identity politics. And I don't know what wave of feminism we're on right now. I've lost track. Fourth wave, fifth wave, you could kind of let me know. But this was something that to me was a little odd. I don't know about for you, but I want to hear your take on all of the sexy women with the guns and the, you know, they're representing Ukraine and they look like models right off of the runway. And I'm just wondering, do you think this is real? Are these beautiful women really part of a military like in Russia and Ukraine? Or do you think this is somehow staged for some reason? And what would it, like, just give me your thoughts, Sharnael. Like, did you see a lot of this type of imagery with the beautiful women and, you know, they got the AK-47s, and what do you think of all this? Oh, your volume is off.
I do believe that some of it is staged, and I think that probably some of it's real,
Okay, all right.
personally.
And, okay, and
Just because I actually know some people that are over there and they are experiencing terrible things, but I also know people that are over there that are saying nothing's going on. We have no idea why this is all over the news.
I've been hearing a little of that too.
Yeah, it's like, so it's kind of what in my personal opinion is that it could be something that's like, you know, just because 9/11 happened, which we know was a false flag and all that, but I'm saying, yes, that was a terrible thing and everybody knew about it all over the world, but it didn't really affect, you know, like Chicago or, you know, not as far as firepower or bombs or, you know, yeah, did people in Chicago freak out that this terrible thing happened? Sure. And was it epic and everyone remembers exactly where they were when it happened? And is that traumatizing, having it over and over and over on the TV constantly to remember everything and see it over and over again to traumatize and reloop and signature code, all that. But sitting at home, you know, wherever you are in whatever other state, if you're not in New York City, you're not seeing anything. So there probably are pockets where in the Ukraine where things are crazy, but maybe other places they're not. I don't know, but there is a lot of staging going on, a lot of staging going on.
Okay. What is your opinion? Have you ever served in the military, and what's your take on women serving in military?
I don't know if you're gonna like my answer personally.
I want your honest answer. We're grown-ups. We can handle each other's opinions, and don't edit yourself, please.
All right, so I have not served. I thought about it. My dad was military, 21 years, and my son-in-law is a Ranger. And personally, it reminds me of the sports situation a little bit with the gender thing. It's like letting, you know, a dude swim as a woman, but he's a man kind of deal. I'm just saying, as a doctor and someone who understands anatomy and biology, there are literally things that guys are built to do because of their body structure, because of their muscle twitch, because of whatever, that they can physically do better than us, unless we're, you know, really maxed out on whatever. I don't know. We can shoot better. We have better focus on shooting, like actual hitting targets. And there's a lot of things that we can bring to the forefront that would, you know, help out in the balance of things, because that's what it's all about, is balance. But anything forced where it's like you have, for men or women, I don't think anyone should have to be drafted or made to do anything. And I personally, if my son, who I do have a son-in-law, and I consider him a son because I've known him for 10 years, he's on the top of his game athletically and everything. And so is my daughter, actually. But if there was a war, of course I wouldn't want him to have to go and do anything. He would be the first one to go, but I wouldn't want him to have to depend on a woman that's like 90 pounds to like drag him off if he needed help or something, because physically I'm just being a realist here, that I just think that that's not equal. And that if the guys would have to make up for that or feel extra protection about the women, and then you can go into the whole other side of it where the women who are doing what they're doing, they're ostracized. There's been so much cover-ups with sexual abuse and ways to rank up, sleeping with all the people, and like total rapes, literally, when they go off in the field and things. Like, there's just a lot involved with all of that. And so it's very complicated, complex answer. But if my son was in a situation that needed help, I would rather him have a dude that's as big as him and strong to carry him out of whatever, or to get stuff done. And that's probably not politically correct. I'm all about women's rights. I'm all about women if they want to do the thing. But I'm just talking about on a physical thing, I guess. Probably pissed everybody off.
Not at
No,
all.
I don't think so. I appreciate that. And how about you, Laura? What do you feel? Have you served in military? And what do you think about this? Did you see a lot of this imagery that I have up here with the beautiful women from Russia and Ukraine with these guns, and they're on the, I don't know, front line?
I just want to interject once, because you keep calling them women, and this is a young girl in the front here. I don't know about the one behind her, but this is obviously a child.
She looks really young.
That's a good point. Thank you, Kerry. And
It's just bothering me, you know.
yeah,
Just,
no. Okay, so are we all seeing that these are children
She
possibly?
looks like kids, especially that big picture.
well, I mean, these
Okay.
are women, you know, obviously to the right, those are women. I don't
Right.
know, they're in the smaller one because it's more mixed and hard to see, but this is a
Mhm.
little girl in the front. I mean, I could, you know, that looks like a child to me.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Thank you for that. Because one of the things I was very mindful of is when we were talking about the children involved with, being victimized by adults in, sexual situations, they were calling them, what is it? Underage minors. It's always a euphemistic instead of saying this is a child, this is a baby. But okay, there's a mix of ages, it looks like here. So I agree with you, Kerry, that one in the very front, she could go for very young. I don't know how young. We would probably all have an idea of just how young she could be. I don't know in these other countries how young they draft girls, I'll say, females, whatever term you want to use. So I'm not really altogether sure how young. I know that they use children in militaries in other places. So if anybody has any information, even in the chatmosphere, drop it in there if you know how young they draft the females for their military.
Well, I think if they're volunteering, maybe will take them. And certainly we know that all the stories of African children that have been force recruited, right?
Right.
So that's a very common practice there with young children. And they
Yes.
grow up being, killing people, basically. Sorry to
Mhm.
interrupt. Now, go right ahead, Laura. I just wanted to, it was just bothering
Oh,
me.
yes. No,
thank
totally.
you. Yeah, thank you. So Laura, back to the question of, okay, do you have an issue like in terms of, have you learned anything about what we were just saying, how young they use females? And did you notice a lot of this imagery coming out in the beginning where it looks like they're just, I don't know, it was strange to me. I'd never seen, I'll say females for now, that look so pretty. In other words, like, not to say that it has anything to do with that, but it just looked like it was a little extra. Like they were, there was someone on Instagram and she was being sexy with the gun and taking a lot of pictures. She got kind of like famous off of it because people were saying that she was stunning and brave, as Salty Cracker says, stunning and brave. So what is your take on all of this? Do you have any idea like what is going on?
I haven't wrapped my head around, what's going on. I know that there's just so many layers to all of this and a lot of disinformation, and most war are kind of based in false flags or some sort of you know, kind of set up. And I think this is just kind of a part of the theater, honestly, but I could be wrong. So I don't have like a fixed opinion about it, but when I just kind of tap into it, I don't know how authentic it is. And I know that, you know, the Ukraine has something also connected with a lot of the deep state cabal, crimes against humanity and crimes against children. And, you know, I just feel like this is just sort of a sort of a cover, and some of the false, maybe feminine empowerment that isn't really coming from maybe the divine feminine's emergence in the world. And I just think that it's like slapping a face on the war in order to maybe grab the attention of like, yeah, what female power, but that's misplaced and filtered through a narrative and not the truth. And I just don't think these images are very legit. I don't think anything that's really coming out is very legit. And I know that it's covering up maybe something deeper that is to our benefit in the long run, even though it doesn't look that way. And I'm not saying that war is a good thing at all, but it kind of reminds me of the mission. And I know they recently put out a movie about it, and they're very selective about any movie that I even watch. But when they were attempting to bomb the Gestapo in Copenhagen, and they missed their target, right? It's like they were trying to take something out, but there were casualties. It almost seemed like something similar as far as what they're trying to take down in the Ukraine. As far as women in military, I mean, I have, you know, kind of that energy, you know, wilderness, like ropes course, like, you know, the kind of boot camp that life is, and just putting myself in these immense challenges that, yeah, I, even when I was a landscaper, the people I landscaped with who were men were like, oh my gosh, she like can work harder and she can do this for longer. And even the boss was like, he created a new company and I was his first choice, and the men were just not too happy about it. So I might be the kind of person that could maybe kick some ass in the military. But at the same time, no, there's a lot of limits. I'm not in sort of like a super, you know, buff kind of body. I'm very kind of small structured, and, you know, I used to be more lean, and, you know, but I did have endurance and muscle. I don't think I would be able to handle the trauma and the insanity and the chaos without, because of my empathy and just my sensitivity. I'd probably just like be in a corner. I'd probably lose it. So just to kind of go into the gender stuff though, I think it's absolutely inappropriate that they would ever put a man who feels like a woman in a woman's thing. They take people out if they take steroids. They take women out if they take testosterone shots, right? So if you have somebody that is born with that extra hormone, or that hormone that makes one a man, I don't care how much you think you're a woman, this is not equal. This is not fair. So, but it's not to say that like I have anything against being transgender, but you know, it's like, that's what I feel we're losing. Like the archetypes, the true archetypes of our soul are not being addressed. I feel like there should be way more female priestesses that are doing divine kind of spiritual work that's more in the mainstream, more exposure to that, and less like going off to war with all these patriarchal priests that are still operating in these different religions. That I'm not seeing any breakthroughs in. And to me, that would be the greater priority of bringing more balance to the masculine and feminine. And maybe that would dissipate the wars, because the woman power in the world, whether it's being a priestess, whether it's being a warrior, whatever role that is deep to your soul as a feminine force, in touch with your masculine warrior side, in touch with Mother Earth and what this time is all about, I think it would dissipate war and there'd be a lot less of it. So until that breakthrough happens, I think the rest of this stuff is bullshit.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Oh, boy, that was fiery. Okay. Well,
Okay, well,
Real quick,
am I next or no?
wait, Sharnael.
Right now, I think just has one quick thing she wants to say.
I was-
Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say that it's like they glamorize it, or they try to make it like the cool thing, but they do the same thing with the guys. When you see the videos or the like the commercials for, you know, oh, this is so cool, you can do all these things and jumping out of helicopters and blah 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 and all this stuff, like they're just on both sides glamorizing it to make people just get like, oh, I got to serve my country, which I love my country, but I'm just saying, you know, they make it like enticing to come. So of course they're going to use like beautiful people, because just like celebrities and all the stuff with Hollywood, they're not going to put like some ugly person on the cover of a magazine or whatever and buy the clothes. Like, not, you know, I'm not saying that that's good or bad, but I'm just saying it's overdone. And then going back to the gender stuff, like my son does karate, And now there's this big thing, and he's also in Boy Scouts. And now all of a sudden girls can be in fucking Boy Scouts. And he has to like go in these tournaments for karate, and he's a badass. And he doesn't want to hurt a girl that is coming in. And you could tell, like, she's probably kicking, you know, good kick-ass girl, but he can take her down. And he's not even a big dude, but you know what I mean? Like, I literally, when I go to these tournaments and or Boy Scouts that's now can be Girl Scouts, like, I think it takes away from the men's thing to be able to go do their men thing out when they go camping. Now they got to have a chick there, and maybe she's on her period, or, you know, like, I know it's just crazy, but it's like stuff that I didn't have to deal with. I wouldn't want a boy on my Girl Scout thing. You know, maybe things are all different, and I'm just like old school, but I cringe from the inside out when I have to go to these tournaments, because I'm like, oh my God, please, I don't want you to hurt the girl, you know, and it's just, to me, it's just not fair. But yet there are women who want to go play football and be the only female on a football team or whatever, to like show they're so great, or maybe they just really feel called. I don't want to be judgmental, but I wish it wasn't even allowed. I think Boy Scouts should be freaking Boy Scouts, and Girl Scouts should be Girl Scouts, and all this like gender confusion and all this stuff is just so fucking confusing.
Okay, well, can I talk?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so appreciate what you just said, Sharnael. And it is confusing, but I have a little different take. Now, I spent, a lot of people don't know this about me, but during the .com bubble crash, a lot of people, we just decided to do different things. So I was one of those people. I left a high-paying job in advertising, and I joined the Peace Corps. And I wanted to go to Africa. That was my whole reason for joining. And instead they sent me to Turkmenistan, which is, you know, one of the Eastern Bloc countries, not unlike Ukraine. And I lived with a young teenage girl and her mother, and we just hit it off incredibly. And I only stayed there a month. And this is when I was in, you know, there's a lot of Russians in Turkmenistan. It's also on the border of Iran. And it, you know, and they thought I was Russian. So they would talk Russian to me, and then I wouldn't, you know, they'd think I was rude because I wasn't answering in Russian. I didn't know Russian, but it's just something about the way I looked. They thought I was Russian. So anyway, I lived in that culture, and it's very interesting. And because she was young, I went everywhere with her. So I was like with this teenage girl in this they burn trash outside the apartment in the middle of the street. This is a very poor area. And then actually I left Turkmenistan, and I left the Peace Corps as well. Not only because I got a message that, you know, a psychic message, I wasn't supposed to be there, but also because I was supposed to go in to teach in the school. That was like where the destination for the job was. And when I went there for the, you know, job interview type of thing that goes with it, they wanted me to use corporal punishment on the kids. And no fucking way would I ever do that. Yep. This is a Soviet fucking system, okay, back in the day. Yeah. And this wasn't that long ago. This was like 20 years ago. So what was I going to say? Well, basically, I don't know, I got really close with this young woman, and, you know, she's 16, but, you know, so I hung out with her and her friends, and everything they were talking about. And then we went and, you know, instead of doing banks, they go into this market, and then you get to know the money changers, and you change your money there. And, you know, it's a very unusual, very different kind of life. And when you go in a regular store, they have nothing on the shelves. They had like, you know, I swear to God, like, you know how you have a grocery aisle and then there's all food? Well, no, there's like 1, then space, then 2, then 3, then 4 or 5. That's it. That's the whole store. Is like hold hardly anything. But the marketplace, of course, has everything, because all the farmers come in with all their stuff and, you know, all that. So basically, I would say, you know, people don't understand women at all. They don't understand women. They don't understand girls. They don't understand us. Okay. So this world is set up with some sort of sick, twisted idea about who we are, what we can handle, and how mature we are. So I just want to say that 14-year-old girls are a lot more mature than people realize. And that's also part of what's going on, is that half the world has been marrying 14-year-old girls to, you know, even 80-year-old men, but certainly younger men, even in, you know, 20s, 30s, 40s, 60s, you know, whatever. That's customary in the Middle East. Okay, that is very common. So they don't consider it pedophilia, okay, when you do that. Now, forcing, and some of this is like forced, and Africa has the same thing. And they do horrible things, brutalize, you know, young girls in certain African societies. I mean, we're talking about cultures that are just so different than America and the West in their way of looking at humans. And that's also why they wear the burqa, for example, hiding everything, right, about who you are. After a certain age, a girl has to dress like that in certain societies, as you know. And I've traveled the whole world. So anyway, so I do want to preface everything like that. And I do think that these, like I said, these are young girls in the first picture over here. The one behind her is probably in her teens, maybe. And she certainly looks like she might even be 12 or younger, as far as I can tell. The women, look, there's nothing wrong with being beautiful or attractive and having a gun. So what? You know, you are doing whatever it is you believe in, or your job is, or maybe they're forced by their parents, or who the hell knows, you know, but there's a camaraderie. Now, these may be staged photos. A lot of photos are staged, obviously, and there's propaganda. So they take zillions of photos, and the ones that are the most, you know, provocative, they would publish. And you also have to understand the Russian, and for all intents and purposes, that part of the world, Russia is kind of that society. It's a culture that has pervaded all of that area, okay, Eastern Bloc. And I can see that Ukraine's no different. What that means is they have a completely different view of sex. You're not going to believe this, but nobody talks about this. I don't know why they just don't know anything about it, I guess. And because I was a woman over there, you know, a relatively young woman, I just was party to this. The mother of the 16-year-old girl gives her like what I would consider pornography, because she's growing up, and she wants her to be aware of her sexuality, her sexual power, you know, what's out there, the opportunities she has, or what the hell fuck, I don't know, you know. And I was shocked, but, you know, it's not even anything I would look at, I don't think. But all I'm saying is, you know, that no, I don't know why people don't talk about this. Russia looks at sex very differently than America, okay, and England, who have this sort of overlay of a Victorian, you know, past kind of, and then forget the religious Protestant, Catholic, whatever that is. Thank God I didn't grow up in that kind of world, but a lot of people did. So I just want to throw those things out there so that people see things a little different. We're saying, oh, underage girls, or we're seeing beautiful women, and we're seeing guns and so on. Well, some of these are actualized humans that want to just do this, okay? Now they're believing the propaganda of their country. And Zelensky is an actor. He's a transvestite. He's a Nazi. This is all known, okay? There's tons of photographs, tons of evidence of all of this. You know, he's been an actor forever, and actors, if you don't know it, I worked in Hollywood I was an actress for that matter, but I worked in Hollywood for 20 years. You know, when you're an entertainer, you're very fluid. You know, if somebody tells you play a man, you play a man. If someone tells you play a woman, you play a woman, you know, whatever, right? So what you're seeing in the larger society is something that's always been normal in Hollywood, for one thing. And for another thing, you know, I grew up in California. and Northern California and going to San Francisco. And San Francisco was the center of, the 60s and doing whatever you want and so on and so forth. And, so a whole different sexual mores than what you guys are growing, or younger people grow up in now, which is like some weird thing. But now it's completely going the other way, more like the 60s again. So I just want to say that people, they don't really realize that a lot of this stuff is trained. In other words, it's not like you wake up and come to this planet and decide you're going to, do certain things, but they get it from their culture, and it can be misconstrued. So they may thinking about growing up in Ukraine, because Ukraine has a Nazi past. They have parades honoring the Nazis. I mean, for God's sake. Now, that doesn't mean they're all Nazis, okay? I'm sure there's plenty that aren't. But if you have this, what is Nazi? What is that? It's a militaristic culture, is what I'm trying to say. And they've also had 8 years of civil war with the Donbass area. So the East versus the West in that country. So again, if you grow up in that environment, then war is very close at hand, and war memorabilia and outfits and all this kind of thing, and guns and knowing how to handle a gun is probably a sign of, of being with it, of being hip, or whatever it happens to be. You know what I'm saying? When you're growing up. So just not to be so judgmental over all of this, because we're seeing it through a lens of a culture that has, at least in my view, because I think I'm older than at least some of you, and I remember better. Maybe I just had a historical point of view, but and I was a radical, so I did not follow any rules, and I was a tomboy, and I could climb trees and play war just as good as any boy when I was young. I was an incredible athlete. I even my 2 girlfriends put me through an athletic test to decide if I was going to be in their clique. That's,
Wow.
And I passed, and we were like the 3 toughest girls in the whole school. I mean, but not tough in a boy, negative way, but, we were the what do you call the most popular, whatever that is. I got in trouble, like I think Laura was saying, I got in trouble for back talking the teachers. That's what I did. I mean, I do it now, and I did it then.
I'm shocked.
I have.
We can't see this. We cannot. We can't.
So bizarre. I can't believe that you would be like that.
You have to show receipts, Kerry. We cannot believe this.
All right, enough said. So you were asking my opinion.
Oh no, I love it. No, this is
So,
great. Yeah.
I'm just throwing all that into the mix. So I'm not so judgmental. Of course, I don't like to see growing up in war, but if war is all around you, and let's say you're 8 years old, and for 8 years you've been seeing a war, and so now you're 16, what are you going to do? You're going to go fight for your country. You don't know that Zelensky is, or maybe you do know he's a Nazi. Maybe you even think that's good. I mean, I don't know. Some of the country believes they're fully Russian. That's the I think it's the eastern part, the part next to Russia, what is called Donbass. So a lot of they are self-identified as Russian. They take pride in being Russian. So they wouldn't be the ones in these pictures. I think these come from the Ukrainian side. So they will be the ones fighting the Russians. They would think they're self-identified as Ukrainian, trying to have an identity in that way. They probably don't even get the politics. I mean, like, who does? What are we talking about? Basically, they say 30 biolabs. Let me tell you, the latest number I heard was 46, and this was from a good source. That's on the surface, to say nothing of what's going on under that country. I mean, the country became kind of a stomping ground for the Europeans to make buku money, to move guns, humans, you name it, in and out of that country to do money laundering into, and then send stuff down to Iran, Syria, wherever it happens to go. So that's all I have to say for the moment.
Well, thank you. Well, I'd like to just wrap up this little round here by saying what I have come to learn. I have not served in the military, but I was recruited, in terms of a Navy nurse, and I didn't go through with it. But I did hear from a Vietnam vet who, when he came out of Vietnam, and he told me a lot of like his personal experience, what he went through. And I'll tell you that he definitely doesn't adhere to anything with the United States government. He lives completely outside of this system, as much as he can based on his, experience in Vietnam. But he came out and he knew a woman who was also over there with him, who had gone through the, combat somewhat, back then. But he said that she was so transformed when they had come back and tried to have a marriage. He felt that women become so transformed in not a good way from war and fighting and things like that. So he felt like, don't ever, join up and sign up for the military if you're a woman. That was what he was, telling me, and I've known him for a long time. And that always stuck with me. And I do feel that the fighting, first of all, we don't have the true narratives like you all have, like you've raised, Kerry. There are a lot of cultural lenses. We have to understand history and things like that. For us to jump in and choose sides is very ridiculous. It would be like if you had a fight with your sibling or your husband and someone comes in from a totally different place and tries to say, well, you're wrong, Kerry, you're wrong, Sharnael, you should have done this. You will both probably leap on that person like, what are you talking about? You don't know our history. You don't know what he did last week. I mean, it'll be all kinds of things that you don't know. So I feel like war is just, I'm over it. The more we learn about the past, because that's what I'm doing a lot, is going back to history and learning some of the stories that weren't told. Things like Operation Baby Lift that happened in the Vietnam War after it was over. They were lifting babies. They had the Playboy bunnies in the plane. Hugh Hefner was, these are things that really changed how I view these things. And back to the whole issue of the Girl Scouts, I was just looking at the way that it looks militaristic. Like, this is a vintage picture I want to show you all, where it is, I don't know, this is the thing that I pick up on. It seems like it's getting women girls warmed up to military. And not to knock military, I know that's a touchy issue. Oh my God, it's like, support our troops. You don't question anything, just support them. I support people and I support issues that are good. Now, if I'm not getting all the information, that would be just like a soldier going in who doesn't know. We both don't know. A civilian as well as a soldier doesn't know what these people are really up to. So I just want to say that when it comes to the touchy issue of, are you supporting our troops blindly? Or you're not patriotic if you question things. I think that's not fair, but it's good to have the dialogue. And,
I think it's a very good dialogue. I'm sorry, but I just want to say that don't forget that for the last 10 years at least, all the heroes of movies that are fighting are women. This is a Hollywood trend. This is an Illuminati trend. They're trying to break up the family. They're trying to change the role of women. And I just want to interject one thing that you mentioned about this guy saying women get changed by war. Men get changed as well. I mean, this is, come on. I mean, they are changed irrevocably as well. So to say just women are changed by war and, oh, that shouldn't happen is, again, that's, from my point of view, is a sexist statement. So I see that as sexist. Now, other people might think, oh, well, women should be, like mothers and stay at home and all the conventional things. I understand people questioning gender because we're talking about souls. Okay, you're a soul first. and a human being in a body second. So how you manifest and how you choose to manifest and the limitations around you have everything to do with the society you're born into, and then your own guts in rebelling against that. So just saying, to think that there's a supposed to be a certain thing, there is a reason why people are rebelling against all of that now. I don't agree with it in many cases. I'm not for a lot of this crazy shit, like having trans athletes go in and compete against ones that aren't trans, because maybe they should have their own fucking club, I'm sorry. But
I agree.
I'm just saying, I think there are a lot of issues here that we really have to dig out from under. And I think it's great that you brought up the subject today. It's kind of a refreshing topic.
Oh, good. Well, this is a perfect segue. Thank you, Kerry. Now, and I know, Sharnael, you touched on this, either you or Laura, both of you may have. Now, this is a hot button, okay?
Not really.
Well, this is right now what I'm seeing, and I see this is a topic that, with all the distraction, we have to do, like what you said, Kerry, we have to get to some understanding, some kind of agreement, maybe compromise, something going on, because it can't go this way. It's not fair. I'll start off asking you, what is a woman? And now that we've had now we have this new Supreme Court appointee, and I'm not going to attempt to say her name, but if you know how to say Ketanji Brown Jackson, who was asked the question, what is a woman? And she would not answer it in a way that is just straightforward. And some people feel, I've read some of the different articles where they felt like she did answer it. She answered it by being there, by being a woman who has overcome. Literally, that's what the author said to one of these articles. Like, she answered it by just being there. And they went back into some, whatever history of her fighting her way to this level, and just her mere presence was the answer to the question. So I want to see what you feel about what is a woman, and is it necessary that we get to the bottom of this, and why is this being challenged the way it is, where you have, again, we bring up this issue of, this was a man who went to the University of Pennsylvania as a man, young man. He changed his gender through hormones for a year, and now he can compete as a woman in a sport that he is dominating. And I want to see what you think. Sharnael, are you around? I don't see your picture, but you could be there listening.
I'm sure she'll be right back.
Okay, so you'll
take this one, and then she can take it when she gets back, if you like.
Yes, please.
I gotta run here in a little bit. This has been such an awesome conversation. Oh, sure, now go ahead.
Sharnael, my question is, what is a woman, since this is now like such a hot button? Like, we have the Leah Thomas from University of Pennsylvania, started out as a male athlete, now woman dominating and just causing a lot of controversy, a lot of pain. The support for him is very big. The university said they would not change what's going on. She can still compete with, against women in this sport. So what is a woman? Okay, if you were asked that question, you could answer it, right? How would you answer it?
A woman has certain body parts that they're born with, and certain chemistry and anatomy and physiology and hormones and all the things. And can that be confusing? Yes, because chemicals like whatever's in the chemtrails and the foods and all the dyes and all, makeup and cleaning supplies and all that, they are hormone disruptors, and it is causing a lot of confusion. But in the end of the day, I think that women are still women and should be able to compete with women, and that there shouldn't be this crossover. It's absolutely not fair on either side. And I mean, I think if the roles were reversed, it wouldn't even be an issue. That's just my personal, and I'm with Kerry. I'm like, definitely go make your own damn Olympics or team or whatever you want to do and have fun with that. I'm not like anti anybody. Do you, like, everyone do you. But what I don't like is the promotion of it, the priming of it, the indoctrination of it, the whole like just basically, you know, even not wanting kids to think it's okay to have babies because it's gonna like somewhere cause problems with global warming or whatever the F they're talking about this week. You know, it's like, y'all, I mean, it's brainwashing on a level of whatever, and it's for the transhuman opportunity that is kind of on the cusp of where we're at, and they just want to make everything so benign that there isn't feelings, you know. And I look, I have a family member that I've known since was like 2-3 years old that was born with female parts, but when we would go anywhere or do something and she was there, she would swear that she was a boy, and she was like too little to know better, like very, very adamant that she was a boy. And back then, if we went to church or anything, there would be dresses. You had to wear dresses back then and pantyhose and all this shit. And it would be hell to have to go through and watch this person not want to wear a dress because they insisted they were a boy. And if they were ever introduced and said, this is my, you know, whatever, then they would stand up and go, no, I'm a boy, and wanted the haircut short. I mean, all the way from little, when no one had programmed anything, you know. And I know that they took her to like psychology stuff at like 5 years old even, and they even questioned her parents and said, like, did you guys like want a boy? And maybe it's like in her subliminal consciousness or something, or she, you know, maybe, and they tried to even blame the parents. But genetically, people can be born confused if there was any kind of hormone disruptor situations going on, and or like some of the vaccinations and different things that are literally causing things to turn off and turn on and shut down. And, you know, so I don't fault anyone. What I don't like is when they're like pushing it and making it cool and making all the celebrities doing it, and every single commercial and movie and everything has to like make sure that we have all the people that they need to represent and every little thing. And like, you can barely go watch a movie or a TV, anything, without like making sure there's 55 all kinds of relationships going on and all kinds of ideas of what everybody is, when that is so unnecessary. But they want to make it popular and glamorous again, and it just goes back to the brainwashing thing. That's just my 2 cents. Whatever.
Thank you. All right, Laura, what is a woman? Is that like a really hard question?
Man, this is such a great topic. I'm just like so fired up here. And I love what everybody has been sharing. And I'm going to kind of wrap it up with some things that we kind of brought up earlier. I mean, to me, the most important thing is that a person is true to themselves instead of trying to fit into, you know, any kind of defined roles, any kind of social engineering, any kind of like answering to what the television told you, or what even your parents passed down to you, or what the latest trend is based in where we might be culturally. We don't have to answer to that. We have to answer to ourselves and be sovereign and determine, like, what does it mean to be ourselves? And I think body issues people are going to have no matter what. But when it starts to become like this sort of like political like movement of like, oh, there's sensitivity to these people's issues as far as gender confusion. Well, you know, I mean, we all have issues, right? There are people that are in their physical bodies as male or female that have, like, for women, for example, body dysmorphia or eating what do you call it, eating disorders. And for men, like maybe they want to pump up their muscles and they're, you know, what size, and sorry. And, you know, it's like people have issues, okay? You know, and so issues is that you don't know if you're a chick or, I mean, a boy or a girl, you know, whatever. But when you're a child, children are androgynous. I was totally a tomboy. And I remember one time my sister put gum in my hair and I cut all my hair off. And I couldn't get it out. And everybody thought that I was a boy, right? So then I went to a YMCA overnight camp and I told everybody my name was Chris. And I was totally like the dude, right? And I played like with all the boys and they like thought I was like the coolest dude. And I was like, just like we're totally on the same page about like Tonka trucks, race cars, like everything. And just playing sports. And then my mom came and picked me up and it was like, Laura, you know, no, Laura. I'm like, oh, sorry, you guys. And then I left. And I knew it was an overnight camp, and I kind of felt bad. I'm like, you know, I didn't mean to trick them, but it's like everybody like, are you a boy or a girl? Because I had short hair. So anyway, I was like a total tomboy, and you know, now I'm a mother of two, and I'm married to my husband. And it's like, if that projection, if that indoctrination, if that sort of over focus was put on me, like, oh, maybe we should give her, you know, let's like put a microscope on that and like inflate it into this very awkward thing, that would have been horrifying and terrible. And I'm just glad that like I just you know, moved through it and just like had fun with it and came out the other end, you know. And I wasn't like, you know, your typical maybe girl, but like I had nothing against those that were. I was the kind of person that could be friends with everybody. I don't care if you're a cheerleader, I don't care if you play with Barbies, maybe I'm different, but like what is the common thread? It's like we like to have fun and we love each other. And so anyway, so the false sensitivity that we see that's trying to address these issues makes me want to say, well, guess what? I identify as a hawk, so I shouldn't have to pay my taxes. Yay! I'm a dolphin. I identify as a dolphin or a whale, and I don't know how to do these things. So, you know, you're gonna have to like let me go. You know, if you're gonna be this sensitive politically, then, you know, handle like those of us that don't know what the F, all that shit's all about.
I love it.
I love it. Thank you.
I'm a dolphin too. I'm with you.
Yeah,
And we shape and then we're a hawk. We're all these things. You know, we're nature driven. I just wanted to say one more thing about war. I am a warrior, and I will fight any battle when it comes to protecting children, when it comes to protecting this earth, when it comes to protecting community, women, men. You know, divine, masculine, feminine. And like everything that's important, but I will never fight in a war for somebody else because I know that there's something hiding behind it that I do not agree with, you know? So I will not serve somebody else's war. I'll serve the ones that are soul-centered, that have to do with what I know in my heart and soul are the kind of battles that are worth it. And that's what us warrior women gather together in resonance in doing, because this is the badass patriot warrior plan that we are, right?
Thank you, Laura. Okay.
Thank you, Laura.
Yes, thank you. Okay, Kerry, we are on the edge of our seat with, I need to know what Kerry says. What is a woman, Kerry?
Well, okay. I mean, I'm kind of with Laura more or less, because, you know, I think that you're born into a body, you feel certain ways. Now, I was all the mixture. So like I said, I was complete obsessed with fashion and the way, you know, my dress looked and the whole thing. So I was a total girl in that way. But like I said, I could climb trees and beat a boy. In fact, I got in fights with boys because they were trying to beat up my brother, who was a year and a half older than me, but he had developmental problems. So you know how mean kids are, they make fun of them. So I would get in fights with boys, not lasting fights, but I would go stand in between my brother and the bully, and I would take the punch and I would try to punch him back. I wasn't really good at that, but you know what I'm saying. So I became a defender of, you know, of weaker people than me. And I don't, you know, I think that women are known for that as well. We're tigresses, right? We're mothers there's nothing like a mother when she gets her, you know, dander up and there's something that she doesn't like that's happening to her kid or whatever. And so I think that's a very beautiful thing and shouldn't be changed. But I also, you know, I don't have an issue really. Now, what I don't like is they're trying to make people, like you say, go into these funnels. So they can't just say, okay, whatever you are, and then just do a movie, and then it's the meaning of the movie, and who cares whether the person's gay or straight or whoever, whatever they are. Instead, they have to like make a big thing about it, right? And then they have to try to, you know, like you said, every Hollywood movie, and like I don't know what it is right now, but for the last couple of years or 3 or 4, it seemed to be nothing but gay kisses, people kissing gay couples, right? So I guess they were getting theirs in after all the years of never getting to do that on the movie screen, or whatever the thinking is, you know, because there is a large gay population in Hollywood for sure. So, you know, I don't have like these issues so much as people do. I don't, when you say what is a woman, you know, what is a woman? Yes, soft, nurturing, all those beautiful things. Because I think of what is a woman, it gets surrounded by the feminine, sort of natural, what do you call that? It's not, it's the opposite of testosterone. It's called whatever it's called. Estrogen. So it's like that's the natural hormonic balance between what's man and what's woman, as far as I know. And the anatomical is part of it, but it's not the whole story, obviously. So it's behavioral, you know, it's a consciousness, and it does affect your consciousness, the amount of those hormones and so on and so forth. So I don't think it's a big mystery, you know, and you can say in majority of, you know, there is like a majority of a sort of feminine thing that goes with them being female, okay? And then there's a majority of what goes with men, but there's plenty of people that have always fought. In fact, my brother fell in the middle ground, right? So he wasn't good at sports. I was, you know, he couldn't, you know, he didn't fight. I did, you know, so, you know, that was that, you know, just his proclivities were not like along those lines, but mine were. But on the other hand, he, you know, he wasn't like feminine like me, like feminine, like, you know, whatever. And so I guess what I'm saying here is that I think you could say, what is a mother, you know, and then a female who takes care of and nurtures her child, but men also take care and nurture children. Women, I don't think men should be having babies. I don't think they should be transforming their biology, you know, and changing it. Now, that's just my point of view. I don't think it's probably even healthy to do that in the end of the day, but I understand the drive to do that. Like when you're somebody who, what the hell is this? Oh, when you're somebody who, you know, trans people who grow up at a certain way, and they feel like you were telling about that little child who grew up and thought they were more of a man. My sister, Lori, she was a little bit more boyish. So but she didn't want to be a man. I mean, say that she was a man, but she did hang out. She became the only female carpenter in a certain city. She, you know, was very proud of it. She would hang out at bars with all the guys, you know, like that. And I think, you know, at a certain point, she even got raped. I mean, I'm sorry, you know, I don't know if you're not supposed to say that, but, you know, because when you're in a boy's world and a man's world, you get exposed. That's what happens to the women that get into the military. You know, these guys are, you know, some of them, the testosterone kind of thing, they're super male. So we have this dichotomy in our culture. It's a yin yang universe. It's a system of polarities, but not to say that there's not a lot in the middle that are variations on the theme. And that's what makes humanity beautiful in a sense. So I don't like legislation other than allowing, but I don't think you should say, oh, you can't call yourself a woman, or you can't call your, you know, there's these rules coming out where you're not allowed to call yourself certain things, or I don't even know. I can't even follow all that stuff, you know? So yeah. I don't think there's a clear set, other than you could say, okay, anatomically, a woman looks like this. Testosterone versus estrogen, she has, the majority of the women have this percentage. But if you're talking about a specific woman, then it could be all over the map. It could be whatever she is, right? So I think that humans are having trouble right now. Like, this is a general thing. Humans seem to be having trouble defining themselves, understanding what's true and what's not true, bringing truth forward. So what we're looking at really more than anything is a sort of a very bad handling of bringing to the surface quiet, secret, rebellious elements that haven't been outed sufficiently. They started to get outed more so. I mean, we go through these periods in society. So in the 1920s, it was more risque. Then it went into more of a, stayed, like the 50s was a very staid society in certain ways, and in certain other ways, it was a real exploration of female sexuality. So it was kind of cool in that way, I thought. And same with the 40s. And, so I think these are trends, they come and go, and that's where we're in this kind of, exposure. But why they try to legislate things and they try to force, people to act along those lines. And I that's the thing you're trying to get away from, I thought. You're trying to have more freedom, not less. And what is this? What is, why is the society constantly trying to become less free right now? I hate that. So I don't know what I think it depends on the woman. What is a woman? We know anatomically, it's obvious, right? And then beyond that, whatever. It's how you define yourself. If you're a female anatomically, if you're in between, well, then I guess you're not a woman, huh? I mean, you're something else.
Be yourself and love it.
You don't have to call yourself, man, woman, trans. Doesn't that kind of cover most? If you're kind of in between, you might be a trans, right? Is that not a good enough
We're
word?
integrating polarities too. So we have the masculine and feminine. So let that be something joyous to experience in your body, and just learn to love the physical vessel that God gave you, whether it's male or female,
Well, Shakespeare, As You Like It, I think it is, the key character is a woman dressed as a man through the whole, play, in case you don't know. And it's very cool. So, it's been going on. It didn't just start, but they're trying to legislate it, it seems to me now. And that's always a problem. I hate, laws.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate this conversation so much because it is so current. And the way I see what is a woman is, to me, it's always been simple to me. And I see this as more of the chaos creation. And I want to move more towards simplicity. And this is more chaos. I think we all could take a child. They naturally know things like that's a guy, that's a man, that's a woman. Just simple things. The people that fall into the middle, as maybe it's described, or the fringe or whatever, I don't think that a whole culture and society should be changed and transformed just because of a minority of people who are having issues. Now, as a nurse, I have taken care of patients over all of these years and the different trends with this issue of gender identity. Now, I see them when they're having their crises, not when, the media is trying to tell everybody this is a great choice, you should definitely go towards that choice. They are actually, in my opinion, they're creating more confusion in younger children. Like you all just said, was it you, Laura? You said I played with the boys' toys. I climbed trees. I was the same way. I climbed trees in dresses.
Yeah, and I had a doll on my hip sometimes, and sometimes like animals. It's just like
exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody at that time, the agenda wasn't to then take me and start to indoctrinate me into this identity thing, because children take identities and put them on every week, a new identity.
That's right.
And it shouldn't be tampered with in terms of fixing something, like putting it in a fixed state, because I wanted to be a veterinarian when I was little. I changed my mind the next week. I wanted to be this. Children are going to change, and this is not responsible. So whatever an adult is having issues with, that's their issue. If they want to identify with something, we've always been okay with that, in my opinion. I don't think anybody's going out. I don't think those figures are true, that people are going out and harassing and it's hatred. We don't hate them. Nobody is hating, or nobody is afraid of them. We just want children to be left alone. Leave the kids out of it. That's my point. If you're having gender identity kind of challenges, work that out as an adult, but do not give hormones to children.
Oh, God.
Do not have men inside of Korean spas in downtown LA with their, male members out for children to see. That's not appropriate. And, I just want to end on this, because I want us to definitely pick up again on some of these things. And I want us to leave off on, I want to kind of go around and just get a final, because I wanted to just show that with the Leah Thomas thing, Leah Thomas is getting support, actually. I saw it's like a feminine or feminist, I think it's called Her. The name is Her Campus. So it's a feminine or female type of group on University of Penn, or either University of Connecticut. So there are women who are saying, I stand with her. So it's a lot of I'm standing with people, and you have to show this, like you have to make these choices and stand. But I just wanted to kind of just put that issue out there, and kind of end on this, is that I wanted to share that I don't know why I happened to watch a little bit of a soap opera today. Do not ask me how I ended up in that rabbit hole, but I was watching part of the soap opera that I used to watch as a younger woman, and the soap opera has the same people. If you ever got into like the soap operas, these are like literally, I don't know what these people are doing. They've been on these soap operas since my grandmother was watching them. And
I watched Dynasty in Dallas with my granny in England.
Exactly.
When I was 12.
Yeah, your grandmom or somebody, or aunties. But the thing that really got me today that was like really crazy is that, okay, I knew even from not watching these things for decades, I was like, wait a minute, how is he with her? And they're all marrying each other, and it's so confusing, right? But then what happened, there was a commercial for the Girl Scouts. That's how I tied all this in. It was a commercial for the Girl Scouts during a soap opera, okay, that was about all these people like intermarrying. And I was like, what are Girl Scouts? This is the demographic that's watching soap opera? I was really confused, okay? But I just wanted to say, like, this world is just so cuckoo. But I look at this picture, and the word that comes to mind is warped, okay? And it's a warping of, to me, so many things, but the one that concerns me the most is there is a warping of love, of love. And I just want to end off and just hear what your heart would like communicate with looking at this picture, just thinking about some of the things you're observing, and can you end out on something about love? And I'll start with you, Dr. Sharnael.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you. I actually I can't remember where I was yesterday, but something came on the television, and it was General Hospital. And I can say that I knew that because I did the same thing I watched it with my grandmother when I was growing up, and I was like, oh my God, is that Laura? And not Laura Eisenhower, but Luke and Laura. And then I saw a couple other people who were like, white hair now or whatever. And I'm like, are you serious? These people are still here, So I had the same thing happen yesterday. So that's interesting. But as far as love, yeah, I think when there's any confusion and or division, constantly everything being played against everyone, country against country, gender against gender, white hats, black hats, you know, all that stuff. I mean, there's just race, all of it. Like when there is that in the mix, then that is the very definition of warping love, because I don't see color or gender or anything. Like, again, I don't know why there's such an emphasis on division. Well, I do know why. There is an emphasis on all this division, and even in religion or politics or all of it, it's just all socially engineered towards everyone picking a side and people feeling like they need to pick a side. And I get it. I'm obviously doing it too at times, and it seems almost first nature to, you know, be in the middle of it and pick a side when honestly we don't have to. But sometimes we feel like we need to. So I'm not saying about right or wrong or good and evil. I'm just talking about just any topic. It's like when someone puts something on Facebook, you don't have to respond and like get in the fight. You can actually scroll and people forget that. So all that being said, I think when there is that social engineering and all the mass media with this MK Ultra situation to get everyone divided, that is obviously going to bring the love radar at a lower level, because there's less opportunity. You know, just put it this way, imagine the news only showing good news. Imagine the news showing all the races loving each other and all the genders loving each other and countries doing other things for other countries, and that's the spotlight, or a guy helping a woman across the street and feeding puppies that need support, or kittens, and organizations that do really good things and things. Like, what if that was the main focus? Of course it wouldn't get ratings, but maybe it would, I don't know. And so if that was the brainwashing, just think if there's like if there's an opportunity for that kind of brainwashing, because brainwashing doesn't have to be bad. You can get into like an immersion of brainwashing to wash your brain from the programming and all the other stuff, right? And I feel like I have to do that almost, just because the stream that goes this way is so much, or that way I should say, is, you know, a mass amount of negativity, a mass amount of unlove, a mass amount of segregation, religion, division, all the stuff. And then I feel like a lot of us are all like trying to go against, like the trout we talked about, I don't know, months ago.
Oh, yeah.
So in my practice, I'm doing things like, you know, all the things that keep myself mentally stable, and the focus frequency of 500 or more, which would be love. Like doing all the things to stay in love as much as possible, to stay out of drama, to not get into these, you know, arguments or discussion fights, whatever, and just to let people be and get in nature and do all the things that are going to code me to a loving state. Otherwise, you know, I think we could all just jump off bridges and call it a day sometimes, if we would just be so crazy with everything that's going on. You know, maybe all of you guys watching are fine and everything's hunky-dory, but for me, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, and there's a navigation of all of that, going through the trenches of staying stable and sane and in a loving presence to radiate love when there's a mass amount of anti-love going on, you know, or if it's maybe only 3% anti-love, they're magnifying it on movies and TV and whatever to look like everyone really hates each other. And I mean, even with the hurricane that came down here, there was a hurricane that came down, and they were showing, sorry, my dogs are all barking. They were showing like racism fights and stuff in the middle. And I was like, are you kidding? Because I live amongst all kinds of different colored people and we're all helping each other. And that's not on the news. Like, why? You know, they were showing weird stuff that they wanted to like hyper focus on to get everyone to think, oh my God, even in the middle of a storm, people are bad, you know, and it's like, oh God, there are freaking good people. There are good people. We are good people. There's so many good people, but they're just not focused on, they're not magnified. And if the magnify and the focus was be on all the good things and good news, and that's what we thought about, there would be a mass amount of love. And we would all just be like, look, what can we do to make more love? And, you know, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Laura, look at this warped record right here. You know, it's like this warping going on. What do you think about the warping, and what is your idea about love these days?
Oh, I mean, this to me is everything that we're healing. This is what is going to activate our dormant DNA, because our dormant so-called junk DNA is actually all about love. It's the integration of polarity. It's the alchemical marriage, the hierogamic union. It's the that true love restoration that we feel within ourselves. And it's so funny, you know, you guys talking about like soap operas and stuff. And I'm just gonna kind of like go back into all that. Watching soap operas, right? So I brought up watching Dallas with my granny in England when I was 12. And I remember Mitch Cooper, right? So then go to 2011, living in Ventura, California. My boyfriend at the time tells me about this man named McCloskey, who's this profound artist who lives in Malibu, California. And he paints about Sophia, the goddess, and the divine feminine, and the Christ energy, and the mythologies of all of it. And he doesn't use a canvas, and he described it to me, and I was just like, what? And he goes, yes, his name's Lee McCloskey. No, by the way, he played Mitch Cooper on Dallas. He's an actor, you know, he's been on Santa Barbara, or like, I can't quite name all the different soap operas that he's been on, but he's been in movies. And I'm like, seriously? And like, he was like, yeah, I'll take you out and like go visit, and we'll go to his house. So we drove out, I went to his house, and I walked up the stairs, and like literally my life changed forever, because everything that I'd always been about or tapping into about the divine feminine, masculine, what's going on the planet, you know, the emergence of, you know, the goddess energy, not as a figure, but as like a planetary consciousness that is just streaming through all powerful women, you know, any woman, even the most downtrodden. I mean, but the power that can lift, you know, the most traumatized and abused woman, you know, up, you know, the rising of the divine feminine energies. When I walked into his house, it was just like, it was that whole story of going into that underworld and like rising, and like you go up the stairs, right? And the way he described it, he takes you on a tour, right? So anyway, to make a long story short, which I could just, it's like my favorite story. I would go there regularly when I lived in Ventura. And he had this place called a salon where we would all like gather, and we would talk, and we'd open up books because he had a library. And we talk about, like, he has the most phenomenal tarot deck I've ever seen in my life. And we go through one card at a time, and we all go around and share our thoughts about it. I did that for like a couple of years when I was in that area, and just his beautiful wife and family, and they faced the Malibu fires, and I was like right there with them, like not in geographic location, but like I'm over here in Montana, just like feeling all that, and just like, you know, like that place almost burned down. And like, you know, Lee and his wife, and they were just like, and another guy named, he was on LA Law, and also Santa Barbara, the soap opera, right? And he used to go to those meetings too, right? So these soap opera folks that are badass, like he was also on LA Law, AJ. It's like I get so excited when I this stuff. It's like I might miss a few things, but anyway. So I've been just very connected into all that ever since, and still am. And I created his Facebook page and created the Return of the Divine Feminine Facebook group, which is now, just because of all the bullshit going on, but I featured his art. I actually have it on my website, and I put it on privacy because sometimes, like, because my path is so insane, I don't want it to have any repercussions on them. So I'm very protective over them, but I do have a link on my website of his art, all his videos, the tour, like that you can experience going into his Malibu home. that is a masterpiece. I told him it's like, this is beyond the eighth wonder of the world, right? So, so to me, like the question of love, you said, it's just, I think this epicness of, I keep using the word epic lately. Every day's epic. It's like, it's okay. And like with, you know, what Sharnael said as well, it's like, there's so much beauty. I mean, like recognizing these things. It's like, I used to say to Lee, I'm like, I can't believe, like, you know, because I mean, this is a good chunk of about 10 years or 11 years that I've been, you know, friends with him. And I've interviewed him a lot. I've been to his house a lot. Even my father came there. And I mean, I've got so many stories about like my connection. I really feel, you know, like a part of, I mean, like really close after all this time. It's just like, wow, I just can't believe like more people aren't turning themselves onto this. It's like there's like a wall when it comes to like the essence of the goddess or the divine feminine, or all how it goes into all these like different territories of archetypes. And it's like so mind-blowing. There's no way I could put into words tonight. And I just like was making a few notes. I mean, we're, you know, it's going into Lilith and like so our DNA fabric, I feel is like been like uncovered and sort of threaded throughout his house and land in that area of Malibu. And it's beyond a treasure. And to me, it's the pinnacle of the most sacred temple on earth of like what it's all about and what's emerging. And he has spent his life since 9/11 painting this emergence that is going to ripple out all over the world. And it's going to be something we feel within ourselves, the mitochondrial DNA that we feel within ourselves, the transformation, that alchemical shift that's taking place that is helping us to break down the frequency fences and all the nets and all the dark technology to like really blossom and like raise these elemental kingdoms again, to be like, you know, living so in tune with nature and like the advanced technology that we are, that we're able to get our true spiritual gifts and powers back. And to me, that's where we're headed. So you guys know Lee McCloskey, he's just like, I mean, I just sit there still to this day, just like weeping and like looking at his pictures, just like, oh, like, Lee, I love you. I love Carla and their whole family. They have the most adorable grandchildren now after surviving that Malibu fire. And it's just like, that is like, this keeps me going. And like, anybody who exposes themselves to it, you'll feel so lit. You'll feel that medicine and you'll feel it in your own like cells and in your own heart and soul and DNA. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you, Laura, for sharing. I know you are very passionate about the art. You shared some of that with me like last year, or has it been 2 years? The time has been flying, but thank you so much. And ending off with you, Kerry, what is your, you know, perception of the warping of things? Do you see it as a warping? And what are you feeling in terms of love and bringing love into this equation where so much division and fear and hatred and whatever? What's your take?
Well, I guess I just see that that people are living their own realities, and that a lot of people are sort of, I guess, putting an overlay on everything, and then they blame the world or something. And I think that the reality is that a lot of people are making choices. And I think love, at least at this time in this day and age in the world, has to be more about acceptance than, and not trying to punish, like to get away from this, I don't know, punishment paradigm. And unfortunately, because we're in such a dark time in terms of, yes, the light is coming out everywhere, but the darkness is also being exposed. So the darkness was always there, but it wasn't exposed. So as it comes out, it does sort of warp people's view of reality, even though, like I said, it's been here. And sorry to say, guys, it's going to be here again. I mean, it's going to continue. It's the yin and yang, the light and dark the polarities that are part of Earth and this dimension, and actually go up through the dimensions, okay, up to a very high dimension. So being able to balance that in yourself, okay, and in your perceptions of what's out there in the world, I think is a big challenge right now. And also not seeing the other, whatever the other is, as enemy. So people are wanting to like legislate the hell out of things, force you to take a jab, force you to do this, force you to mask, force you. And it's brought up in me, you know, being of the rebel that I am, feelings that I had to actually deal with, having to do with, I don't even own a gun, but if I had a gun, sometimes just wanting to go shoot certain people, like, let's say Fauci or Bill Gates or whoever the, you know, person is that I just think is ruining the world for me and for everyone. Now, then I had to look at that from a spiritual point of view, that that's not really in keeping with my normal spiritual values. So then I had to balance that, right? I had to really talk to myself during these last 2 years and you know, then look at these people that are, believe me, in my view, absolutely certifiably insane in every sense of that word, okay? And realizing that I had to just love them the way you would a child who is doing something insane, okay, that you don't think is good for them, you don't think is gonna work out well, and they don't want to hear your opinion of it either, okay? So it's love on a different level that I see, and that's required of humanity at this time. And therefore, you know, you can see where, okay, Ukraine, yes, there are people having their houses destroyed and this and that, and there's a ton of refugees. Even now I'm wondering, well, maybe they're just using this as an excuse to get the hell out of that country and go somewhere else. In other words, I know that sounds kind of superficial, but it's just that a lot of these places are not very nice places to live, and they're not very, and they've always been horribly dark. There's a lot of darkness in some of these Eastern European countries, I have to say. So I don't know, you know, I'm not trying to make a value judgment. I'm just throwing out the notion that there are also films of like perfectly nice streets, like even in the Donbass, I think it's called, what is it called? Donetsk is the city, where you've got this, and he's a reporter. He's actually just filming and driving along, and it looks perfectly fine. And yes, there are some bombs in the distance, but he's driving his car, other people riding their bikes, so and so. Again, this idea of living with war for 8 years. So all I'm saying is that, yes, we have these labels, you know, and I'm guilty also of saying, okay, this one's a Nazi, and this one's a, you know, whatever, a Democrat, and this one's a Republican, supposedly, and this one's a, you know, all that kind of stuff, Rhino, or, so a lot of labeling, right? So again, if you want to talk about love, love is that kind of thing that levels everything out, that just fills it out and just sort of, it seems like acceptance is more the name of the game, and deep understanding. And I think that's what's going to be required of humanity going forward, because we're coming into a time where there's going to be a lot of emphasis on punishment. There's been tons of crimes, and then you want to punish everybody. And I've never been able to really get on board with that notion personally. I'm not a vindictive person, and I don't care to, you know, I don't even think, I mean, I don't think jails are the way they should be. I think a jail should be a place of recovery for someone who's been ill, if you will.
Absolutely agree. Wow.
You know, and so I think it should, I once was watching a film that was showing us, was somewhere like Norway or Sweden, and they had these prisons, but it was out in the country, and you had a little house, and you were isolated, yes, and there was some kind of, I don't know, maybe far distant fence type thing or whatever it was, but basically, and then you had a craft, then you did it, and you just, basically your job was to meditate on your life and to improve yourself. And a lot of people do, against all odds, improve themselves incredibly in these horrible jails that we now have. But why should anybody think that that is a good solution for a criminal to go into this, I don't know, 5x8 cell and torture? What about torture? You know, I'm so concerned over this. You know, I was watching this film about Guantanamo Bay and how a 9/11 so-called terrorist ended up to be completely innocent, but they tortured the hell out of him for 14 years. I mean, we've got lots of places like this, not just a few. It's horrible out there. So these are places where, why is it that humans want to do this punishing thing? You know, eye for an eye, do, you know, all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just, it's so wrong, because if you understood that you're going to live lots of lifetimes, and you understood you were a soul first, having a material human existence, then you might want to look at it a little deeper. And it doesn't, you know, you can torture the body to death. The mind is not going to change. They will say anything you want them to say. I would do it. You know, you're going to torture me, I'm going to sign anything you can say. I'm a this, I'm a that. I don't give a shit, right? Just stop the pain, because I don't want pain, right? But I just, so I know it's a strange thing for me to go in this direction, but I don't know. I just think there needs to be more love. Creates acceptance, okay? If you begin to love, come at it from a completely different angle, whatever it happens to be, and then start to understand on a deep level, where is this coming from? And that includes pedophilia, drinking blood, all this horrible shit. You know, we have got to get to a more elevated place with dealing with these incredibly dastardly, horrible crimes against humanity. And that's going to require an expansion of this notion of what it means to love and to be human. That's
Dude,
what I have to say.
that's freaking awesome.
Thank you so much. Wow.
Wow.
This has been a fabulous roundtable, as always. And I just want to end out on this just to say I love you all. I really do. I love you all. And I wish you just the most amazing blessings of abundance for your health, your families, for your prosperity, and just to continue in wisdom. And, you know, I found out, I didn't know this, you know, I'm showing this image here. You know, we grew up in this era of having albums and everything. And if this happened to your album, you're pretty much toast, right? You just throw it out. Well, guess what, ladies? I found out that they have some kind of thing that will iron all this out. I don't know if you knew that. There's an actual piece of technology that will actually fix an album that's been warped.
I wish I had my vinyl collection still. I used to have boxes and boxes and crates of.
Really? Yeah. So I didn't know this back when I collected albums, but yeah, there are ways to fix a warped album.
Awesome.
And I just want to end on that note that, you know, just the hope in just that one little fact that I learned, that, you know, all is not lost. And for me, I have recently, like I have shared before, I've gone back to the roots of my faith. And when I look at a lot of what's going on through that filter, I have so much more hope. I really do. And I look forward to the day where I know that who I place my hope in is going to make all things right. All the warped records will be ironed out, okay? And love will abound. So I just want to just end on that I just love you so much. And I thank you for this time together. Thank you for everybody who's joining and who will watch. I will add in like all of the links where you can find these beautiful women. And if it's something you want to say, Laura, if you have something.
Oh yeah, just a little, if we could just say each of us just one closed final word. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Say go again.
Oh, go ahead. I want to say I love you again. I'll repeat.
Well, Sharnael, we'll start with you and like kind of close it out and just final words. If that's
Yeah, I mean, I just, you know, I've been testing a lot of people and doing soul audits, And I've been working with people who may be at fear or just on the brink of courage, and able to move them up on the scale all the way with, like, I use the map of consciousness, which 500 is love. And it's been really cool to see like how to do that. Like, there's mechanics that can go against all the flow that's been coming against us, that you can still, you know, go upstream and be that trout or that salmon that's going to go like, you know what, I'm headed for love anyway, no matter what's coming this way, I'm going upstream. And yeah, you can find me on swiftfire.org. I'd love to see you guys wherever. And I love all of you guys so much. And I always enjoy hanging out with you. I love everything that you said today, and I appreciate y'all and all you guys watching. Love you too.
Thank you. Thank you. Laura, what do you?
Awesome. Yeah, I guess, yeah, my final words is, this incredible, you know, synergy and just unity that we're experiencing, you know, is huge. And this is really what's, you know, changing everything. And I just want to share this one quote from Lisa Renee about, you know, the mother. And when I was talking about Lee, you know, just the Sophia energy, you know, the planetary consciousness and what that means for us right now. I just want to share this quote from Lisa. Until the Mother of God and Sophia's Holy Spirit are freed to be embodied in matter, women all over the earth remain enslaved through the Baphomet and Black Madonna networks. So basically, everything Kerry was talking about with just ritual abuse and pedophilia and all this vampirism, and all the reversal grid technologies, all the dark technologies that are trying to invert everything and keep it in inversion, which it has been for so long. They just keep changing the way they go about it. It's master of disguises kind of thing, in the way that they kind of play that when we're really grounding and integrating this Holy Spirit essence of the Divine Mother in our hearts and in our souls, connected to the diamond heart that exists in the core of this planet. When we really, really do that and embody it, it is going to free all women that are enslaved all over the planet. The divine feminine within the masculine, it's going to set free, so that they can begin to process how they've been thrust into war, how they've been put in the positions they've been in, and where that masculine energy has been traumatized and wounded as well, so that the sacred union and that divine template will blossom, and we'll see this beautiful love story fulfill itself. Just, you know, the happily ever after, you know, and it doesn't mean you're not going to have bumps in the road, but the thing is, when love is there, it's unconditional, and that magnetism, that soul connection can get through anything together. And it just literally is the fertility of the land and the abundance of the people. And we will, you know, blossom so fully outside of this system in ways that we can't even imagine. And that dark cabal and the matrix and all its tactics to make everything so difficult so that they can prey and feed upon it, will be done. It'll be starved. It'll crumble. It'll neutralize. It'll be nullified. The mark of the beast will be nullified as this power surges through our hearts and souls, rippling out to the whole collective consciousness. And my website's cosmicgaia.org, and I'm keeping it updated, and I'm starting to travel again and do events this year, and lots of cool things I'm feeling really encouraged and inspired about. So check it out.
Thank you.
I love you all so much, and it's been an incredible roundtable today.
Thank you, Laura. And Kerry, what ending word would you share with us, please?
I think I've sort of said this before, but I think being the hero of your own life is really paramount at this time. Taking a standing for what you believe, being, as has been said in this panel, who you are, and living true to that. I think that's what the human experience is really about. And I think that redefining an understanding of what people bandy this word about constantly, which is God. So love and God are something that both get bandied about constantly. And yet do people really understand what they're saying with those two words? And in my experience, the last few years, I have just been horrified, I have to say, by the way people don't seem to really, they use God a lot all the time. Some certain groups, it's part of their culture, I guess, to use the word God constantly. And yet I don't get the impression that they even know what they're talking about. I just think, again, this sense of expansion, this sense of allowance, this sense of this is a place where, you know, spirits come to inhabit bodies, to experience in all different realms, and trying to restrict experience and put limitation on everything. I see a lot of that now. And also limitation on God. God's only allowed to have certain points of view. God's only allowed to like certain colors. God's only allowed to, you know, save certain people and not others. You know, I mean, it's insane. You know, God is everything. Do you not understand this concept of what, when we say, you know, the one, the whole, the creator, the source, the force, that, you know, how, whatever word you want to use, unfortunately, the limitations people put on God are like the limitations they put on themselves and others. And so I just think that needs to be re-examined. So that's, those are my parting words.
Thank you. Well, that could be like a whole other like conversation, but maybe we'll have it at another time, you know, and this has been wonderful again. And I will make sure everyone has the you know, the websites and where to find you. And I'm going to say, God bless you. Okay. Jah. That's what I call him right now, Jah. And I've just been, like I said, I've just been getting into like the Book of Enoch and all that. And we could get into a whole lot about that because it goes into the UFOs and all that stuff that you all are good at. But we're going to save that for another time. Thank you for joining me, everybody, and my sisters here. Bless you all. We'll be back at another time. We'll keep you posted. And until next time, love is the only way. No war, right? Love. Okay.
Guys.
Okay.
I think
Thank you.